Good morning, everyone. This is the Vermont House Committee on Commerce and Economic Development. It is Friday, February 13th, 2026 at 9:04 in the morning. So as we always do on Fridays, we begin our morning with conversations with our legislative interns. We had one from UVM, one from Norwich. So Abbott, Bailey, which one of you would like to go first this morning? Abbott, good morning.
Good morning. For the record, Cabot Sales, UVM intern. This morning again, I will be going over the Senate Committee on Economic Development, Housing and General Affairs, giving an overview of what they've been talking about. So starting with Tuesday, they discussed their Housing Bill S-328, and the topics they went over were increasing tax credits for VHFA down payment assistance, increasing VITA's lending authority to work on multi-unit housing projects, still working with VHFA, and they discussed common interest communities and expanding the rights of people in common interest communities to rent out their units and allow them to install electric vehicle charging stations. And there's a little more information there if you want to look at that. On Wednesday, they discussed S-327, which is their economic development bill. They talked a lot about the support system for small businesses in Vermont, specifically legal services from the Vermont Small Business Law Center, and expanding that, allowing more funding there. The Small Business Law Center was asking for $800,000 to expand the legal services. They do have a backlog of demand for legal services in small businesses. They also discussed the micro business development and financial coaching. So Capstone Community Action requested increases to support low to moderate income entrepreneurs with financial consulting and assistance. And they also heard from the Vermont Professionals of Color Network asking for more support for their programs. Okay. And Thursday, they discussed several different bills. S-306, an act relating to first responders in communications, which is defining people in communications related to first responders as people in communications who are eligible for other services. They discuss S-307, which is an act relating to overtime pay for firefighters. S-292, an act relating to granting higher education employees the right to strike. And S-277, an act relating to prohibiting mandatory overtime for nurses. And finally, they discussed S-278, their act relating to cannabis. And that's the overview.
Abbott, thank you. Thank you.
All right. For the record, my name is Bailey Davis. I'm the Norwich intern for the committee here. So what I did this week is back loop here. I got more information from the Education Commission of the States, in particular Annie Gianni, who worked here as a committee, I believe a committee assistant, then also in the summer worked for the Vermont Department of Education. So she's obviously, well versed in our states and the issues that we have. And obviously I, asked her specifically regarding CT education. I don't know if you guys have the my document, but there's a lot of good information there for you. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go over everything just because a lot of it is review from kind of like what I talked about a few weeks back. But what is interesting and what's I think is particularly helpful, especially going into next week. I believe you guys have a focus on CT next week. is there's a 50 state CT data point website. And so I joined the Zoom. I'm going to share my screen and show you guys that real quick. There we go. So yeah, so this is the data point. So this has in terms of CTE requirements, is kind of like the holy grail. It has every single requirement for each state, including armed forces overseas. So as you can see here, if you go to Vermont, you can filter into Vermont. Select that. It shows here. So what entity houses the state CTE director? And obviously Vermont Agency of Education. How are the funds distributed, student-based, and so on and so forth. You can see, the different requirements. What are the teacher certification licensure requirements? And the certification, like I talked about a few weeks ago, teacher CTE training plus work experience. You have the different sources there and the actual codes related to that. And so, I mean, I think it's a very useful resource because then you can also add in, like, if we want to go to Montana, right, or New Hampshire. Let's go to New Hampshire. Yeah, and you can compare directly. So then you have New Hampshire right above it. You can just see kind of the differences based on, like, what they do versus what we do. And so, yeah, I mean, especially, like I said, going into next week, it's a great resource. Additionally, there is this report here, and this is a report that's the Education Commission of the states made. And what it basically goes over is the different challenges that CT educators and just lack of CT education in general, how it typically is being addressed. And obviously, for the interest of time, I'm not going to go over everything, but it's a quite detailed report, and I think it's another great resource that, of course, Annie over at ECS was able to provide me. So and then finally,
Haley, does that break down to what states offer a comprehensive integrated system within a high school?
I don't believe that's on here. Of course, it's something I can look into at another point, but I know, like, in something in Vermont that they're doing that I can get into is, I don't know if you heard of Senate Bill, I believe it's 313. Or no, I think it's House Bill. Let's go over here. It's House Bill 532. Or sorry, no, it is 313. That requires that high schoolers are able to, if they choose, go to like a CTE school, if that's their choice. Because the big concern was that schools would lose funding because they're losing that student.
Right.
But obviously, it's important that we have people in those pipelines. And that's what I was going to go over next. Is the different laws. Obviously, you guys can't see that, but if you look at the document I provided, there's a bunch of different CT laws. These are all recent, so within the last like 2 or 3 years. So Texas, for example, passed a law, and it was signed into law in 2025, that the Departments of Licensing and Regulations is directed to establish standards for recognizing CTE programs. And obviously, there's a whole list here. I'm not going to go over everything, but in particular, here in Vermont, like I said, we have 313, which requires that students who want to go into CTE are allowed to do that. They're kind of guaranteed universal access is how the bill is worded. And it establishes a student-centered funding model. And then House Bill 532, which is currently in the Senate Committee on Education, did pass the House, repeals the aging statute. So for professors, there's a mandatory retirement at age 70. And obviously, because we're having trouble filling those, CT education jobs to begin with, that's kind of, a disincentive, right? We're getting rid of people who maybe still want to teach, and really, if they can do it, why is there, why should we be getting rid of them? So, but yeah, like I said, there's a whole list here of current bills in various different states, from Virginia, Pennsylvania, and whatnot, for you guys to look over as well. So, and I'll open up to any questions if there's any.
So I'm just noticing so it does have in there, it says that you pulled one of the key findings. At least 38 states plus DC place their CTE director in their K-12 education system. So they have integrated systems. So that's what
he was,
your markup
that's what he was asking. Okay.
So that information is right in there.
Okay.
So not having that integrated, we're in the money.
Yeah, I know there's specific CT centers, at least in Vermont, specialize in different things. Like obviously in Burlington, for example, you'll focus more on like arts, technology, whatnot. Meanwhile, other places you'll have more of a focus on say plumbing or carpentry, whatnot. So again, it's like that's another thing you got kind of I was trying to look into is there a limited access to particular fields based on where your location is? Or is that something that, because can it be reasonable for someone who's in, say like the southeast part of the state to drive all the way to Burlington if they want to go into like healthcare fields or whatnot? So, but yeah, if there's any questions, after that.
I don't have a question, but
Yes.
it's great. Very helpful.
Could you check to see, so there's at least 38 states that have their CT director embedded in. There was another stat that 28 states fund secondary CTE using a student-based funding model.
Yes.
But can you find if there are other states that have an integrated system that there's just one funding model for the whole school, that everything, so that's the true integration.
Okay. Yeah, these are all the stats I got directly from the ECS, Education Commission of the States. Of course, I can go into more depth. Get back to you.
Okay, that'd be great.
Of
Thank you.
course, yeah.
That'd be really helpful. Anything else that we're looking at to help us on? We'll look and we'll get back to you if we find something else too, Bailey.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Questions for Bailey? Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Kevin and Bailey, thank you for your work. Certainly continue to appreciate it. Committee, any reports from the committees you're liaison to?
Can I give a quick update on Mike's status? I checked in at the speaker's office. Hadn't heard anything in a while. He is still in hospital at Dartmouth. Mike is. Yeah, that's okay.
TGS worker.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes. So,
can we, I don't know if we should have this conversation. We can,
no, I'm sorry.
no, that's
I'm
fine.
thinking about that.
Anything?
The Environment Committee has spent a decent amount of time this week on the beverage container bill. I'm not exactly sure the direction they're going, but it has been a priority. It has been a significant. I figured you'd be interested in piece of the agenda this week. But that's the only real thing that I think has any overlap on either of my committees.
Healthcare is mainly focused on budget kinds of issues, right?
Yeah, and just hearing from Melissa, it doesn't sound like that bill that they were working on,
Private equity?
yeah, she's having a hard time with that.
Yeah.
So,
I assumed as much. It wasn't on the agenda.
So, it's even more important for us on 205, right?
Yeah.
I think it looks like things are getting pretty much nailed down with that.
Yeah, we're waiting to hear back. We had a meeting with some folks after the floor yesterday and have some new draft language for that sort of edits down that limitation for non-competes, and we're waiting to hear back some feedback from Jamie. I think we heard from Chris, so we're waiting for Jamie's gonna check
Yeah.
in with his clients, and then we'll get that to Sophie. for
Yeah, the
for
work is really trying to craft, what do we mean by reasonable, conditions?
Yeah.
Reasonableness in terms of when you can use a non-compete. So it was a good meeting. And,
It was good, yeah.
My takeaway was we're getting there.
Yeah, I think we're very close.
You're still working on, well, I just want to follow up on the 205. I'm trying to reach out to some broadcasters because they use those like WCAX. They use non-competes and this bill could affect them in a negative way.
So we'll affect them in a negative way. Maybe better for their employees if, I mean, we have to understand how they,
Right.
I mean, as long as they meet thresholds and they're.
It's all about trying to get this balance between, a business, and they got legitimate interests, right? And then you got an employee, in sort of trying to balance those, right? So, yeah, I think a lot of businesses
I
probably
think it's,
Yeah, and
interested in
There's
the bill.
still,
actually, there's a broadcasters association,
oh,
the Vermont Broadcasters Association.
I will get their contact information and reach out to them. For GovOps, 588 is still being taken testimony on, and that's the professions and occupations related to Office of Professional Regulations. I don't know. I don't know anything about it, so.
512, which is the ticket, that ticket. Was taken that up next week too, so we want everyone to really think this weekend on the direction of where we're going on that one. Do we add the cat? Do we have a cat or not? I think the direction I'm looking at is I'm willing to put the cap on and we'll see how, if it's a detriment to Vermonters or not. I don't think it will be because we don't have, our events aren't very big in Vermont. And you gotta remember, this only applies to Vermont. So whatever is happening, even, the Noah Kahn concert in Massachusetts, that's under Massachusetts law. It's not under Vermont. So even if you're a Vermonter, you can still get caught up in that. But it will help our venues here. I'm generally not crazy about capping prices, but I think in this case it warrants it. And so that's where I'm leaning that way, so.
I'm still,
That doesn't mean you have to lean the same way.
yeah, I'm still not real thrilled about caps. I think about, first of all, a lot of these things, they're never reported. So for them to say that this isn't, that this is hardly happening, I question that because so many of these things, when it happens, they don't even say anything. They just throw up their hand and say, oh, well, forget this. And they never buy tickets again. The other concern I have is, and I guess I need to hear more from them and how much, what would happen if, what if you have a ticket for $10 and you're putting it on StubHub and now you can only mark it up 10 cents, $1, and it's $10 to list it. Well, now you're taking the loss. So I'm concerned at the lower end of the tickets. The other thing I'm concerned about is how many tickets, as much as we feel like these ticket companies are raking people over the coals. How many people would not have found the tickets otherwise? You know, especially if you're a visitor and you're traveling to Vermont, you're going, I'm going to be in Vermont for a week. I'd like to, I wonder what's going on. Well, if you say 110% price cap, the worst case scenario to me is these companies just say, we're just not going to carry the tickets then because it's just not profitable. So now you have someone coming to Vermont and they don't know the Flynn Theater from a hole in the wall, and they never find the tickets and never do the show anyway. So those are my concerns.
Well, so one thing we gotta remember is that these are resellers. They're not the sellers of the tickets. They're resellers for somebody that's already purchased a ticket. So there are avenues for people searching the internet. If they hear that there's something going on, they put the name in and it's gonna pop up it's gonna populate wherever they are. So I think I'm not too worried about that end of it. So I think we all need to remember that we're talking about reselling. And I think some of the things that we've seen already on the StubHub stuff is makes me pause. Especially when tickets haven't even been on sale yet and they're already out there. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I worry about.
Yeah. I mean, I would just say this, I think that if it's legislated properly, we don't need a cap if we have proper disclosures and things like that. That said, if we were to go with a cap, I would feel much better if there was carve out for people to have contracts. So for example, a venue could contract a reseller and then and they could do whatever they wanted for prices. If they wanted to mark it up 50%, that's fine, because that's all built in the contract.
No, I agree. I think that makes sense. And we can write to have that written in too. Yeah. Okay, so we're being called to the floor. So back here. Is different at 15, but I can hear we have Maria. The suspicious transaction language, we haven't seen that yet. And then at 11:30, we have some people from Vermont Housing Coalition coming in and a whole lineup of people that I don't know how they're gonna get through half an hour.
I saw that and say half an hour.
I'll let them know that they stand between us and lunch, so.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So we'll go off